Welcome to day 3 of the 5-day reset. Good to see so many of you on. Say hello in the chat. Let us know where in the world are you watching from. Today's session is Life Made Simple. Welcome to day 3 of the 5-day reset. Good to So before we begin, let's cover some housekeeping items and reminders. Don't forget to complete the action steps each day, regardless of how uncomfortable it feels. Doug is helping you root out the mental junk. And for everyone who completes the action step, you'll have a chance to win an autographed copy of Doug's book. Remember to write down your questions and you'll have a chance to ask Doug on Friday. Now, after each session, you'll find the replay inside the portal. And right there, you will also see a link to the action steps. That link will take you into the Facebook group where you'll find a pinned post each day. Now, inside that post, you can read the instructions, download the PDF, and print it if you like. What we're asking you to do is to complete the exercise and then share your thoughts or comments in the group. And if you want, you can also take a photo of your worksheet and upload it. As long as you leave a comment and or upload your completed exercise in some form, that's how you'll qualify to be entered into the draw to win an autographed copy of the book. Now, let's do a quick review of yesterday's lesson. Doug explained how he freed himself from his emotional prison and what he did. He stopped trying to fix himself and his life. He did something much simpler. He stopped trying to set goals and push himself to achieve them. He stopped trying to become someone he wasn't, and he started questioning the picture he had of himself. Now, what if your picture of yourself is inaccurate? Take a moment to let that statement sink in. When he discovered that the picture he had was a mistaken identity, he was able to change it simply, quickly, and easily. Now, today, you'll learn simpler ways to pursue and achieve your goals. Doug will share the do's and don'ts of getting ahead and why you haven't. He will talk about what really works. You'll see why trying to be someone you're not has created stress and struggle, and how clear thinking and self-acceptance makes progress feel natural again. This is an opportunity for you to tap into your own personal power and take control of your life. Okay, so let's get started and bring on Doug for lesson 3.
Hi, Nancy. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I have a bit of an echo. 1 second.
Tap into your own personal power
Let's try
and take
that.
control of your life. Okay, so let's get started.
Sorry, are we okay? Sound-wise?
Yes, we are. That happened to me too.
Oh, okay. A little technical echo there, but we're all good. Well, listen, I'm glad everybody is here. Thank you for those of you showing up live. I want to thank our reset guides who are here and supporting you guys and encourage you. And they're leading by example too, which is cool. They're doing their own exercises, and many of them have been through the reset process more than one occasion. In fact, several occasions. And so I'm grateful that they're here helping you guys out as well today. So just, I think Nancy said it, but just again, if you get questions, jot them down, whether it's while you're live here, if you're watching the replay, let us know you're watching the replay. Comment in the comment section. We wish you were here, but it's nice that you are there here now, whatever time it is for you watching the replay. So if you have questions, jot them down and save them for Friday. Undoubtedly, you're going to have questions. I certainly want to warn you that your mistaken identity definitely likes to make things up, creates all kinds of questions, and just if you're feeling a bit confused, if you're feeling a little uncomfortable, don't worry. We're going to sort a bunch of things today and tomorrow and on day 5. So it's all part of a process. Like Maxwell Maltz in his book, great book, he called it like emotional facelift or emotional surgery. He was a cosmetic plastic surgeon, so that was kind of how he related to it. So just stick around. Get involved, participate, do the action step that we suggest. We're going to be another one today. And again, take your questions and save them for Friday. And I'm looking forward to meeting you. We'll actually be live. You'll be here in the Zoom room where we're broadcasting from live. And so we get a chance to talk to you directly and answer your questions, and maybe put some people, if they want to get on what's called the hot seat. I'll tell you the hot seat story a little bit later that I forgot yesterday during the live. Anyway, welcome back. Let's get started. Okay. So yesterday we talked about this notion of mistaken identity, and that's a whole other story how I discovered it. But I will. I'll share more of that with you today because that's really what is the main problem. We talked about how trying to be someone you're not actually creates anxiety, worry, and emotional tension. Think about anxiety for a second. All right. So all anxiety is that you're afraid of what's going to happen in the future, and you use your imagination and you imagine things and you play out scenes in your mind and you do different things. And so if you're pretending to be something you're not, it's pretty hard to not get anxious, right? Think of it as an actor who has to prepare for a movie and they don't know the character that they're playing. They don't know the scene. I mean, it'd be a pretty bad acting performance, and they would probably be very nervous and anxious as well. So we talked about trying to be someone you're not. That's the main problem that's causing most people's problems. I quoted the great Dale Carnegie yesterday in terms of what he said, that the fundamental problem we have in the world today, almost 100 years ago, is that people are trying so hard to be someone they're not, and it's crazy, creating all kinds of psychoses, neuroses, and complexes, mental health problems. Okay, and so it's like an epidemic, it seems, these days. I also shared with you what I did, how I turned this around, and some of you might feel like you missed it because it really is actually quite simple. I explained that I freed myself from my emotional prison. I stopped trying to fix myself and my life. I did something much simpler. I stopped trying to set goals and push myself to achieve these goals. I stopped trying to become who I wasn't. And what I did is I started to question the picture I had of myself. That was really what made the big difference. And today, we're going to talk about what happens when you learn to think straight and how life can actually get quite simple. Because life doesn't get simpler when you try harder, folks. Okay, life gets simpler when your thinking becomes accurate. And one of the reasons we don't have accurate thinking, two reasons. One is we don't really understand how our mind actually works and how to think accurately. Or I tell people go, "What do you do?" I go, "Well, I basically help people think straight." Or I teach people how they think the wrong way so they can think the right way and their life can get better. Okay. So life does get less simpler when your thinking becomes accurate. And so that's basically where we're going today. I want to share a bunch of things with you. And as I promised, I would give you some really simple ways to operate and some do's and don'ts that will really help make your life much, much simpler and find out what really actually works. So if you're up for that, type yes. I don't want to just check in on the chat here and see who's here while you're doing that. Let's see who's here. Darren, Tidy Revolution, hello. Manifesting Cat. I love these handles, these YouTube handles. Hello, hello, Manifesting Cat. I wonder if you like, do you purr and then you manifest stuff? How does that work exactly? Who else is here? Sacred Night Rose Healing, you're here again. Nice to have you here. Sophie, Stephanie. Awesome. Thanks for coming on, everybody. It's great to see everybody here. All right, so let's dive into today's lesson. Okay. All right. So first thing I want to talk about is normalizing your effort. Okay. Most people here aren't stuck because you haven't tried. Okay. You've tried, books, and we take courses and seminars, and if you've had problems, you might have turned to counseling and therapy. We listen to podcasts. We follow people online. We look for motivational, inspirational messages through videos, through movies, through music. whatever it is. But it's not that they haven't tried different things. Okay. But unfortunately, often instead of actually getting clarity, I think more people are more confused than ever. A lot of people that I get a chance to work with, I one of the first questions I find out from them after I've kind of found out, what their problems are, what they're trying to accomplish, and what's getting in the way. I also ask them, what are different things that you do when you deal with your problems or handling your problems? And so they'll tell me different things that they do, and oftentimes people are doing the wrong things or doing things that actually aren't really serving them or they aren't really necessary, or worse, they're doing things that actually make the problem actually worse. And I think people are more confused than ever. I know I was definitely confused, and that's one of the things we want to try to clear up. And that contributes to accurate thinking. So we were exposing ourselves to a lot of information. And so maybe you're feeling confusion. I don't know. That's how I felt. Um, and maybe did what I did. I bought programs, didn't finish them. I bought courses, didn't really apply them. Of course, always, looking for advice that sounded good, but often it didn't quite feel right, and when you're second guessing yourself and you're not really fully confident, you don't have this real, calmness of mind, I call it, then you're second guessing. You might get a good advice and you don't know if it's good. It might not feel right. And then you kind of go, is it right? Is it wrong? And you end up in this just kind of, seems to be spinning around. And then after enough of that, when the confusion sets in, when the frustration sets in, then eventually you start wondering if maybe you're the problem. And I remember setting goals that look really good on paper, business goals, financial goals, personal goals. But actually, deep down, I actually felt more pressure instead of excitement. I've got 24 goal cards here. We're going to talk about this little guy here. I don't know if you can see that, a little stick person guy. It's wrapped a little elastic band around my goal cards. There it is. And Bob Proctor's got a quote in here: "The only limits in our life are those we impose on ourselves." So I've got 24 goal cards here. You can flip through them. And I only achieved three of them, and only because I believed that I could. And so the problem was I wasn't pursuing goals that actually felt natural. I was chasing something that I thought would finally prove that I was good enough or worthy enough, or validate myself. And so sometimes, at least for me and maybe for others, goals pursued for proof or validation rarely bring peace. For those of you that have gone through what I call or what are called adverse childhood experiences, you heard, if you watched on day one, you heard my story. And what if you go through your childhood with a lot of criticism and degradation, it's called, then you become obviously very, pardon me, sensitive to that. And then you develop an overcompensated desire for adulation, confirmation, validation. And so pursuing goals doesn't necessarily bring peace. So I'll just tell you the quick story of the what I forgot yesterday. I put a picture in the Facebook group. If you didn't see it, there's a picture of Bob Proctor. I'm on the hot seat. And what I did was I was a client of Proctor Gallagher, Bob, and I was going through his coaching programs, and I got a phone call from the gentleman that brought me in as a client, as a student, and he said, "Listen, there's an opportunity to spend some time with Bob. There's an event in Los Angeles. It's a weekend-long event. There's only 15 people in the room." And you get to work with Bob one-on-one. It's called the hot seat. And so that picture in the Facebook group, I was the first guy on the hot seat, and the objective, Bob's objective was there to try to help me begin to pursue what it is I wanted to pursue. And so I went down to LA. I thought, man, what a great opportunity. And I get on the hot seat. There's another picture. Maybe I'll post it later if you want to see it. Same, I'm on the hot seat. Bob's there, but he's pointing at me like this, like he was really giving it to me, right? And then I'm like this, like I was really scared and uncomfortable. And on that hot seat, the reason I went down is I wanted to become a speaker. My story, as you know, had come out in 2001, and I was doing speaking. I was being asked to speak, and I had a real hang up that I didn't think it was right for me to make money off my story. I didn't think it was okay. And so I had a hard time with the notion of speaking and sharing this story and being paid to do it. But then people started paying me to do it. High school started to pay me, and university started to pay me. And they always asked me, what was my cost? And I had a real hard time asking for the money or telling them. And so I usually say, hey, whatever you can do is great. And so 2001 to 2014, February 2014, I'm in LA on that hot seat. I went down there because I wanted to become a speaker, and I was going through Bob's coaching program, and I had all kinds of hang-ups and real roadblocks, a lot of fear, doubt, worry for sure. And I went down there hoping that Bob could help me overcome it. And on that hot seat, he said, Doug, I wouldn't become a speaker if I were you right now. He said, what I would do is, why don't you come work for me and build up your reputation under my name, like I did with my mentor, Earl Nightingale. Why don't you come work for me, build your reputation up, and then go out and start speaking? And so when Bob said, why don't you come work for me? I just said, yes, sir. And I didn't even know what I was really saying yes to. And then he said, you come see me in Toronto. And a couple of months later, it was actually last week of April, actually, is when I finally got a chance to meet him. And another funny part of the story, we won't be talking about it today, but we are going to talk about decision. And so I went down to see Bob, and I had made up a bunch of questions, 3 pages of questions, about 15 questions. And I got down to his office, and he had the questions printed out. He goes, come on in, sit down. And he grabs the questions, and he looks at them, and he looks at me, and he looks at the questions again, looks at me again. And he takes my questions, the pages, 3 pieces of paper, and he tears them up into a bunch of pieces. He throws them in the garbage. He looks at me, he said, you asked too many questions. He said, you can't make a decision. He said, if I answer these 15 questions, you're just going to come back with 15 more questions. And man, oh man, that was a real kick in the face. But it was one of the best lessons that I ever got. And so I said to Bob, all right, Bob, I'm going to come work with you. And I became a coach, a consultant. I wanted to teach this information, and that's what I began to do. And so my very first goal card, this is one of the 24 that I actually achieved. I think I mentioned this another day possibly, but I had gone down to see Bob in July. He said, hey, come down anytime you want some help, come down and talk to me. He was only an hour away. And so I would go down and see him often. And he said, well, why don't you come down? And he goes, when can you come down? I said, well, there's a Q&A call for consultants on Thursday at 11. Why don't I come down before or after then? He says, why don't you come down for it and join me in it? I go, oh my God. Anyway, I did that call, and at that call, Bob asked me to read out this goal card out loud. Well, wow, talk about being uncomfortable. I learned later you don't tell Bob Proctor your goals because otherwise you have to pursue them. And the goal was to be the top consultant in the world and work with Bob Proctor, not just as a consultant. I wanted to work with him. And I read that goal card out, and he laughed because the end of the goal card says, I'm getting awesome results, and I'm working side by side with Bob Proctor. And by that time, it was May, June, July, just under 3 months. I was getting great results. In fact, I was the number one guy already. And he said, he just kind of laughed. He said, well, you're working side by side with me right now, and you're getting awesome results. And anyway, I got a call in August, at the end of August, and he invited me. He said, I want you to become the international sales director. And I said, well, what does that mean? He goes, well, I want you to be the top consultant in the world, and I want you to show other people how to do it. I want you to work for me. Pretty much what's on this gold card. And I'm saying that, so that happened in about 4 months, 4 or 5 months it took me. And I'm not saying that to impress you, but to impress upon you. The reason I was able to achieve the goal is because I believed that I could. Okay. I believed I could achieve them, and I believed in myself, and that's why I did it. Okay. So if you don't believe in yourself, it's kind of hard to believe in your goals. You might want them, you might visualize them, you might talk about them, but unfortunately, doubt cancels belief. And a divided belief, a conflicting belief, a contradictory belief creates a lot of stress, anxiety, and frustration, burnout, you name it. And so today, what I want to do is I want to fulfill the promise I made that we would talk about the root cause, the one single problem behind most stress, burnout, and self-doubt, and why it seems so hard to get ahead. And we're not talking about 10 problems. We're not talking about personality flaws. I was seeing some of the homework and what people are doing. And then thank you, by the way, for doing that for yourself. But for those of you that posted it, even as difficult as uncomfortable it was, you helped a lot of people. Okay. And so I want to thank you for that. But you can see from the first couple days exercises, you got these ideas about yourself where you actually might even think or be convinced wrongly pardon me, that these are actually personality flaws, and they're not. Okay, they're learned ideas, they're learned beliefs, they're learned behaviors. Okay, so we're not going to talk about a bunch of problems. We're not going to talk personality flaws. It's not a lack of discipline. There's one single problem. Okay, the main problem, the root cause of all of your problems is you're living from a mistaken identity, and it's a picture of yourself that's shaped by experiences, criticism, comparison, and survival. And that eventually started to really feel true for me. The mistaken identity, it creates internal conflict. It's a conflict between who you are, who you think you should be. And so one of the biggest challenges we have is changing that. Now, I didn't know how to change that. I was evaluating the picture of myself. That's like I said yesterday and today. I started to stop trying to fix myself and be somebody I'm not, rather just kind of questioning the picture and changing the question I mentioned on day one, which was what's wrong with me? And I just started just questioning this picture. Okay. And so you've got conflicting ideas in this picture of yours. Conflict shows up, stress, trying to prove yourself, burnout, trying to perform, self-doubt from not trusting yourself, overthinking from fear of being wrong. We have a real fear of being wrong. Obviously, we don't want to make mistakes. We don't want to make ourselves look bad. We don't want to risk losing money or loss of relationships or upsetting or angering or whatever. Comparison, a lot of comparing if you're not feeling enough. And so the problem was never your effort, folks. Okay. It's the identity driving that effort. Okay. So it's not your efforts at the problem. It's the identity that you have, this picture you have of yourself that's driving your effort. Okay. So I mentioned yesterday, and I mentioned, I think on Monday, reading Psycho-Cybernetics, and it introduced the idea of what he called a success mechanism. He said, we're engineered for success by our creator, and we have this beautiful gift called our mind, and it's an automatic, creative, goal-seeking mechanism. It's a system that's designed, if you use it properly, to move you towards goals naturally, simply, and actually almost effortlessly. But it only works when your self-image supports where you're going. Okay. If your identity says failure, your behavior is going to align with that failure. And so I'm going to kind of draw a little picture here in a minute and show you how this is all working and where you've gotten off track. Again, like I said on Monday and yesterday, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing to fix. Okay. You might just be doing some things wrong. You definitely believe some things about you that are wrong, that are inaccurate. You might feel like they're true because of, you got this evidence and, the exercises I had you do in the first couple of days, I wanted to expose that to you and have you expose that to me because all that stuff it is running underneath the surface. And there's a bunch of things going on underneath the surface in your unconscious mind that might be causing the problem. And you're not even aware of it, like me, up until 40, I had no idea what was causing my problems. And so what he said was, is your mind works best when it's relaxed. Okay, so if we're worrying what people think and we don't want to get it wrong and we're not confident and we don't think we're good enough and we're second guessing ourselves and all kinds of things, we're not going to be very relaxed. Okay. So number one is we have to learn how to actually relax our mind because that's when it works best. Clear goals activate problem solving. So basically, I want you to think about goals this way, is just think about goals as a problem you're trying to solve. Okay. Not that it's a problem to achieve it. Okay. But it's a problem to solve. Think of it like a math equation. Okay. And so you're here and you want to go here. Okay. Your problem is closing the gap between here and here. And if you use your mind properly, it's really, really creative. And if you have clear goals, it does activate itself and it does go into a very creative problem solving mode. Again, you're not the problem, but it solves the problem of this equation. How do I get from here to here? Now, overthinking blocks creativity, right? So for me, ruminating, overthinking, second guessing, asking people for their opinions. What do you think I should do? Hey, can I talk to you for a few minutes? And so what we have to learn to do is use our forebrain at the right time and in the right amount. We do way too much forebrain thinking, way too much overthinking, and that's actually blocking creativity. Your imagination influences behavior, good or bad. Okay. So the way this machine works is that whatever you dwell on, whatever you think about, it thinks that's the goal. It thinks that's where you want to go. And so what it does is it brings up appropriate emotions to go along with what it is that you're thinking about. So that's one of the reasons why people get so stuck in this emotional prison, in this loop, and go down the rabbit hole, is because they're dwelling on their problems. They're dwelling on their current situation. They're dwelling on the past. They're worrying about what the future, how it's all going to unfold. Okay. And the most important thing he said is belief in self shapes possibility. And so we really have to believe in ourselves. And it's not about doing things to believe in yourself. It's to undo things as to why you wouldn't believe in yourself. And so you believe a bunch of things about yourself that aren't actually accurate or true. And that shapes your belief around the possibility of what you actually can do. So it's not so much about creating belief, it's about getting rid of reasons why you don't believe. Okay. And these aren't techniques. These are just basic, simple reminders of how your mind was designed to work. So I want you to just, if you can think about this, achieving goals is actually quite simple. Okay. What's complicated is the thinking that we apply to those goals, the thinking that we bring to those goals when we're thinking about our goals, the way we think, how we think, what we think. That's what's causing the complications. Okay. But when your identity is clear, then the goals feel like direction. When identity is confused, goals feel like you're under a lot of pressure. Okay. And it's no fun pursuing goals that you're not really excited about. And I hear from a lot of people, they've got goals, but they're not really enthusiastic. They're not really excited about it. I always ask people, I go like, what have you got to live for? Meaning, what is your purpose? What is your passion? What excites you? What ignites you? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Okay. And so we need to tap into that real passion that's in our unconscious mind, but we got a bunch of conflicting beliefs that kind of squelch out that flame. I mentioned on money, this little flicker that you all have inside of you. And so we want to get rid of the junk and really light that up. Okay. So what I want to do, I want to just show you a simple way to think, act, and to live. Let me just get my tablet going here, and I am going to draw some pictures for you. not very good pictures because I'm not very good at drawing, but I will do my best. So just give me 1 second while I get this going. How are you guys doing so far? While I'm getting this going here. What do people have to say for themselves? I felt like I had something to prove. Yeah, very, very common. Okay, let me see if I can get this on our screen. Can somebody just say yes that they can see that on the screen for me? Are we good? The stream's a little bit slow here from what I'm doing on my computer, so I'll just wait to make sure you guys can see that. Do I have a yes? You guys can see the screen? Yes? No? All right, thank you for the yeses. That took about 10 seconds to get. Okay, so let me explain to you how this all works. So this little thing I showed you, it's called the stick person. Okay, many of you probably have seen this. If you've ever followed Bob Proctor made this little drawing very famous. In fact, a lot of people think that Bob owns the rights to the stick person. And Bob got this drawing from one of his mentors. Let me just undo that. Let me see if I can draw a little more smoothly here. Bob had a couple of mentors, Dr. Harry C. Roeder and Leland Val Vandewaal. And he had said when they drew this picture, it explained something he'd been seeking to understand for about 15 years. Okay. And it was a chiropractor, Thurman Fleet in the early 1900s. I think he was in Texas. And he was so popular with his chiropractic clinics. And so he was into holistic healing. And they used to divert roads and traffic just so people could get to his clinic to work with him. And he developed what was called concept therapy. It still exists today. And he knew that we think in pictures and images, and nobody's ever seen a picture of the mind because your mind is not a thing. Most people think of the brain. And so he drew this picture, and it's supposed to be a nicer circle, but he drew this picture, and he said, let this picture represent your mind. So the big circle is your mind, and the little circle is your body. Okay? And so, what we have to understand is that our mind, it is a machine. Okay, it's a very rational, logical machine. Okay, and it's your mind that directs your brain and your nervous system. Okay, and so if we can imagine in the body here, I don't know. I'll see if I can draw a little brain here. There's your brain. Okay. Um, this machine directs your brain and your nervous system, meaning how this physical body of yours feels. And it's either feeling in a positive energy or it's got a negative. It's either a positive state or a negative state. Okay. And because it's a machine and it's rational and logical, it operates under some really simple rules. And what you need to do is you need to learn these rules. They're not complicated, they're very easy to learn, and they're easy to practice and train yourself to think accurately or to think straight or to think properly. Now, this machine is guided by what's called your self-image, okay? You have a system of ideas. You hold a picture of yourself, okay? And that picture resides in this part of your mind. Now, this is considered the thinking part of your mind or the rational part of your mind, okay? And this is considered the unconscious or the subconscious mind, okay? And this is the emotional part of your mind, okay? And the way that this works is the way that we think. Um, is we take in information through our five senses. Like right now, you're listening, you're watching, when you do the exercise, you're going to be writing, all right? And so right now, we are feeding you information through this live broadcast or through the replay. And so you're hearing things and you're seeing things, okay? You can taste and touch things, okay? Five senses, right? And that's where all your information comes in, okay? And then those thoughts, that information goes into your rational mind. And for most of us, we're not really thinking, we're not really using this part of our mind. This information just goes right into our subconscious. So, for example, if you get angry, if you see something, somebody says something, somebody does something, and you have a negative emotional reaction, okay, it means that you're not thinking. Now tell that to somebody for the first time that doesn't understand this, and they would think you don't know what the hell you're talking about, and they would probably get angry at you for saying that they caused their negative reaction. Okay, um, and so basically, what's happened? If I let me just start over here with a clean slate. When you started out, this is what your mind looked like. Oops, that's not right. Okay, that's how you think. That's how you started when you were little. Okay. And the adults and the parents and the teachers and the religious leaders and the babysitters and the older brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and family members, they were feeding you information, okay, in the form of ideas, rules, values, beliefs, expectations, etc. Okay. And what happened in your early years is this identity got formed. Okay. And your identity comes through these childhood experiences. Now, if you were brought up poorly, then you have a poor set of ideas that are probably hurting you. Um, if you want, you might be in what's called the 60% dilemma, I call it. It's actually a bigger number, but through research and studies and different case studies have been done, it's estimated that 60% of adults have gone through some form of adverse childhood experiences, one or more. Okay. And they fall into three categories: abuse, neglect, and then whatever's going on in the environment and inside your home, inside your environment. There's all kinds of negative things going on. If you heard my story, you heard about some of the things that I was experiencing. So, violence, alcoholism, mental illness, divorce, fighting, all kinds of different things that you experience. And as you experience those ACEs, they really cause, oops, sorry about that. Let me go back to my picture here. Um, when you're young and your environment, okay, that you are witnessing and all this stuff that is being told you and how you're being treated, your body moves into what's called a state of toxic stress. And through study and research, they've now linked up childhood experiences, these adverse experiences, and the toxic stress, and then what that's done to people down the road. So it's impacted neurodevelopment. Of course, people move to all kinds of unhealthy behaviors and coping mechanisms, different things, mental health problems, unhealthy relationships, a whole spin-off of what I call side effects that impact people. So you might be in that category, and that, of course, is going to contribute to this self-image or this set of ideas that you have about you. Okay. And so you can see from day one and day two in what we've talked about and in the exercises, you can see that you've got a bunch of conflicting emotions and beliefs and a system of ideas that you've collected. And because of your struggles and your confusion, getting ahead seems like harder than ever. Okay. So why do only 5% of people succeed? And how do they make it looks so easy. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Erase this and start over. See if I can draw a nicer circle here. That's better. There we go. Okay. So the reason this person um, gets positive results is because they have a positive or healthy picture or self-image of themselves. Okay. Also, the rules, values, beliefs, expectations, etc., that were drilled into them at an early age that have been filed away in their unconscious mind. So I want you to remember that every sense impression, so every idea that you've picked up through your senses, it's all filed and cataloged away in your unconscious mind. Okay. And so this person here, they decide with their rational mind and with their heart, they decide, hey, like me, I want to become a speaker. All right. And the goal is I want to fly all around the world and I want to help people with this story. Okay. And so the reason people are able to do this is they get an idea, they set a goal. Okay. They come up with a plan. And what they do is, and this all happens in their rational mind, and then they get excited about it, and then they move into action and they get what they want. And we look at people and go, like, they're no smarter than I am, they're no better than me. Why is it that they can make it so look so easy? It's because they don't have in their self-image or this system of ideas, okay, they don't really have anything that's negative that creating this inner conflict. And so that was the difference. So when I set the goal working with Bob and I wanted to work with them, the story I told you about it, I believed I could do it. I did have some conflicting ideas, I mean, I'd never done this before, but I'd done a lot of speaking, I'd done a lot of presenting, I had run a lot of events, I'd run seminars, I'd done all kinds of things in my career. But of course, you have fears and doubts and worries. But don't get me wrong, I was nervous and uncomfortable. It was something new, but I just knew that I could do it. I believed I could do it. Because how did you do it? I go, I don't know. Bob told me to do A, B, C, and X, Y, Z. And he used to joke. He said, Doug, do exactly what I tell you to do. And so he would tell me what to do, and then I would do it. Not all the time. Sometimes I'd stop listening to what he told me to do. Of course, then I would get off track. And then I come back and say, hey, Bob, sorry, because I know what you did. You didn't listen to me, did you? He was right. Right. And so that's the difference. Okay. So the reason that these people, the 5%, 95% of the people have a struggle, 5% just do it easy, is because when they set this goal, they just don't really have too many conflicting ideas about themselves or conflicting information in their mind that's causing them difficulty. Now, the good news is you can extricate yourself from this side of the river that's going the wrong direction, right? And you don't like where you're headed, you can actually extricate yourself and get yourself over to the other side of the river, and you can put yourself into the 5%. Okay. And again, it's not by working harder. It's not, you might have to work hard. Don't get me wrong. Okay. But what we've got to do is we don't want to make it too hard with our thinking. And we got to get out of our head and we got to take some action. Okay. Now, you can't just get rid of your mistaken identity by understanding how you got it. So we're talking today, these past couple of days, of how you got this mistaken identity and where these ideas have come from. Some of the ideas that you wrote down, you might not know where they came from. We're going to ask you to consider that today in the action step. And so just understanding this today isn't necessarily going to do it, but you do have to understand how you got it, what is yours, And then all you have to do is change the beliefs that you now hold and get rid of the ideas that are causing you contradiction and conflict and stress and anxiety and fear and worry and doubt and depression, whatever negative emotions that you experience on a regular or an ongoing basis. Now, here's the good news. If you really want something, so I wanted to become a speaker, right? And I really wanted it. But you heard me earlier, I had some real conflicting beliefs. So when Bob said, hey, come work with me and build your reputation, helping people, then become a speaker, that was like a relief for me. Okay. But here's the good news. Okay. This is what I really wanted. Um, if I get a chance to get to know you and you get to know me and you get to know some of our clients, they know I'm on a real personal, heartfelt mission. I think it's just plain wrong that so many people are struggling with their mental well-being and the well-being in their lives because they went through that 60% and they're still struggling and striving and having real difficulties in their life. And I figured out a way to free people from that prison. And so I'm on a mission to help people break people out of that prison because I think it's wrong that you should struggle with the things you do in your life like I did. I struggled way too long, and when I finally figured out how I could free you from that, that became my personal mission. So I'm a bit of an activist. I'm a bit of a whistleblower. I'm very direct. Life is short, and I'm really direct with people because life just goes by too quickly. I'm 63 years old. I'm basically on the last probably quarter of my life statistically, and so I don't have much time left to try to do what it is I'm trying to do. So here's the good news, okay? The good news is that if you really want something, okay, like I really want to help people, I really want to help you if I can help you. If you really want something, you have to understand you are that person, regardless of your evidence, regardless of your past mistakes, regardless of what's going on in your life right now, whether it's with your health, in your relationships, your financial situation, those three major areas, it doesn't matter what's going on, right? If you really want to do something, you got to get it straight. You are that person, okay? And you've been gifted with the talent and ability to pull it off. And like I said yesterday, and Maxwell Maltz said in his book, God does not put out faulty product. You are engineered for success by your creator. And I believe that I don't think God would have placed this desire in my heart if I didn't have the talent and ability to carry it out. Okay. So what we want to do is just start to get rid of some of these things that are going against what's on your heart. Okay. Now, if you're not prepared to address the hidden problem, then if I were you, I would stop punishing yourself. Okay. So I talk to a lot of people who they perceive that this is really going to be difficult because I thought that way too because it was really difficult for so many years trying to resolve what was going on for me. And so people are they're not comfortable. They think they got to dredge up their past. And if you've done counseling or therapy, anything like that, and you had it didn't really help you or whatever happened, or if you tried this, tried that, tried this, tried that, and nothing's really resolved it for you, I get it. I could see why people are just not ready. And so if you're not prepared to address this, if you're not ready to address the hidden problem, then I would just actually stop trying. I'd stop punishing yourself. I would stop if you're in personal development, personal growth. I would probably put that on pause if I were you. I'd probably stop your personal development and then see how you feel. And so, a lot of people that I've talked to, I suggest that they do that, and they do that, and they start to normalize a little bit better, and they start to feel a bit better. It's kind of like I don't know if you've ever done it before, ever taken a fast from social media, for example. People that have done it, they report how they feel so much differently when they're not on social media. And in fact, a lot of personal development now comes in the form of social media snippets. Do this, do that, watch this, watch that. Hey, listen to me. Hey, I got the answer. I kind of see social media now in personal development I want you to imagine you're walking into a really big stadium. So think of a big stadium you've ever been in. I went to see Justin Timberlake at Wembley Stadium, or not Wembley Stadium, pardon me, Stade de France. It was in Paris. Massive stadium. I think it's 50, 60, 70,000 people. I want you to imagine walking into a stadium and you're on the floor seats, all right, and everybody else has got floor seats. But everybody else in the stands, those are people posting on social media. Everybody's got a poster, and all 50,000 people are yelling at you what's on their poster. And that's kind of what I see social media is today. And so if you're not prepared to address the problem, this hidden problem, then I would stop, putting pressure on yourself and punishing yourself, and definitely stop trying to be somebody that you're not. Because if you got a set of ideas that are contradictory to what it is that you actually want to do, you're going to have a hard time. Now, just some quick do's and don'ts in terms of how this mind works. Let me just do one more quick picture here. Um, this is a machine. It's very rational and it's very logical. Tomorrow's lesson is called the cure, and I'm going to explain to you how to resolve this quite simply. But I want you to take a look at this first, okay? And so, because this machine, it is actually goal oriented, okay? It's like the GPS on your phone, or it's like an autopilot, or a guidance missile, or a torpedo, okay? So it is goal oriented, okay? Meaning it's like constantly scanning for where it's supposed to go, okay? And it's directed by your rational mind. Okay. But what runs your body is actually your unconscious mind. Okay. This is what basically runs the show. All right. And you pretty much operate on autopilot. Just think of getting ready in the morning, getting dressed, brush your teeth, your morning routine. Pretty much throughout your whole day, you're running basically unconsciously. Okay. And so what we got to train ourselves to do is to think accurately and run this machine properly. So number one is you do want to have direction. Okay. You do want to have goals. All right. You do want to have a destination where you'd like to get to. You're here now. Where would you like to go? Because in the absence of goals, your mind has nothing to focus on. It just basically follows you. Whatever you're thinking about, worrying about, afraid about, watching news about, whatever information's coming in to your mind, okay, that's causing you to think and feel a certain way. And you've got this basically this program, this system of ideas that's basically running your physical body. Okay. So do's, you definitely want to train yourself to be thinking about this. So your rational mind, okay, this rational mind, this is the control knob on your unconscious. You don't have to let your unconscious run your life. And for you, it might be ruining your life. And again, remember the inner compass that's basically running the unconscious mind is your set of ideas, your self-image. Okay. But if you're thinking actually, if you're thinking about goals, then your mind will come up with possibilities. And so you want to be future focused. Okay. You don't want to be worried about how to get there. Okay. It's like a GPS. You're driving along in your car. You're not worried about how you're going to get to the destination. You just drive. You're calm. You're relaxed. You can be talking on the phone or talking to your friend. You can be eating and drinking at the same time. You just relax and you enjoy the drive, and the GPS calls out your instructions, turn by turn by turn. Okay. The don'ts is you don't want to overthink. Okay. Forebrain thinking. All right. Too much forebrain thinking is going to put stress on this machine, which ultimately puts stress on the body, and you move into a negative state, negative nervous system, negative energy, negative emotions, and then physically you're tired, you're burned out, you're stressed out. Okay. Don't look to the past, okay, as any proof of your limitations. Okay. Who gives a shit about the past? It's not relevant to where you can go. All right? You really got to get that straight. What is relevant, though, is you do have a system of ideas you've been carrying around with you, accumulating and picking up along the way, inheriting, adopting, and all that, forming this identity, this image you carry that is your inner compass, right? And so the key is before you pursue your goals, or maybe before you set your goals, it'd probably be a good idea to clear up these ideas that are false and not true about you, and then pick those goals from a more natural spot, meaning being yourself, knowing yourself, liking yourself, being yourself. That's way easier to pursue goals, and you're gonna pick a goal that's right for you. And so anybody that knew me years ago, I always joke, Bob always says, great term. He said, how you doing, Doug? And I said, I'm doing good, Bob. I go, how are you doing? He said, loose as ashes, baby. I'm loose as ashes. And so you want to become loose as ashes, all right? So don't overthink too much. And tomorrow I'm going to explain why you overthink, all right? So that's actually quite simple as well. And tomorrow we're going to wrap all this up with a simple explanation, and I call it The Cure. One of the chapters of my book is called The Cure, okay? It's simple, but it's powerful, all right? So listen, when your thinking becomes accurate, let me just turn this off here. When your thinking becomes accurate, then life just feels lighter. All right. Not perfect, but lighter. All right. There's a great quote, successful people aren't without problems. Um, they have the same problems that you and others have, but it's how they go about solving their problems makes it different. Okay. So life doesn't become perfect, it becomes lighter. Then you stop forcing, you stop searching everywhere, you stop doubting every step, and then your progress actually starts to become natural, starts to feel natural. So what we got to do is we got to learn how to think accurately. We have to clean up this image that we hold of ourselves, this picture that is causing us problems, problems in our life, problems, with our emotions, problems in our heart, right? We got to clear that up. Okay. We got to learn to think accurately, clear up the things that are causing us not to think accurately. All right. And then your progress becomes actually quite natural. Okay. All right, we're going to wrap this up. Let me give you the action step. And again, remember, it's in your portal. It'll be in your inbox. You can click the link to go to the portal, and we'll take you into the Facebook group where you can link to this action step. So let me just share what the action step is. So I want you to consider what you learned about yourself in days 1 and 2. And then I've got this next step. I want you to think about your goals in improving your life, and I want us to pinpoint the single belief that's actually holding you back. So let me just bring up the worksheet. I'll show you that on the screen, and then uh, we will wrap things up. All right, hopefully you can see that. All right, so again, considering what you learned about yourself in day 1 and 2 and reflecting on the things that came up about you in the exercises, complete this next step. So don't worry if you can't see this on the screen. You'll see it in the Facebook group. So this might take a few minutes, okay? Again, don't labor all night over this. Don't procrastinate on it either. Just it's very simple. It's not a complicated exercise. You might have a reaction to it, okay? But it's not really complicated. Let's keep this really simple. So number one, when you think about your goals and improving your life, what is the one belief about yourself that has felt true for years and is holding you back? I'm not confident. I struggle with follow through. I'm not good enough. I'm not focused. Whatever. I want you to think about what's the one single thing? What's the main problem? All right. What's the main problem? One belief about yourself that has felt true for you for years and it's holding you back. Okay. Number two, how has that belief influenced your decisions, your goals, or your confidence. So we want to pinpoint, isolate this main problem. And then we want to take a look at how that problem, that belief, has been influencing your decisions, your goals, your confidence. Okay? And number three, just take inventory, write down all the different things that you've tried to eliminate this belief and achieve your goals and try to become more confident. So, what are all the things that you've tried to do to resolve this? All right. And again, very important to write, folks, because you're carrying stuff around inside. All right. Now, some of you don't know this yet, but from these exercises, you're not suppressing that in your unconscious mind anymore. By filling out those questions and those answers, you're expressing those things that have been in your unconscious mind. And sometimes for people, just that expression alone will bring relief. Maybe not right away, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a day or two, but expressing these negative sets of ideas really, truly will help you. Okay? So write down all the things that you've tried to eliminate this belief or this main problem. All right. And number four, ask yourself gently, what if this belief isn't the truth, but my mistaken identity and a false conclusion? I just want you to consider that. What if this belief isn't the truth, but your mistaken identity and a false conclusion? And that's what I do when I talk to people. I try to find out where you're at in your life right now. What is it you want, or what are you trying to accomplish? Okay. What do you think is getting in your way? And what are all the things you've tried to get to where you want to go? And in those three or four questions, I have a lot of information. And I can quickly tell is you've got a set of ideas that you're mistaken about. You're mistaken about you, and your mistaken identity is giving you a mistaken view of what it is you're trying to do. Okay, so ask yourself gently, what if this belief isn't the truth, but your mistaken identity and a false conclusion? And then the final reflection I want you to sit with is just think. Like think and write. Just think and ask yourself this question. How might my life be different? And how would I feel if that belief was not real? How would my life be different? And how would I feel if that belief was not actually real or true at all? I want you to consider that and see what comes out of you. Okay? That is our day three. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the cure. Because once you see the mistaken identity, you can begin letting it go. And not by forcing change, not by fixing yourself, but releasing what was never true and unlearning and relearning how to think properly. The way you were taught to think is causing you lots of problems. In fact, most people weren't actually taught to think. Very few people understand how their mind actually works. And they hear about mindset and all these different things, but they don't really know how to set their mind or let alone direct their mind, direct this machine. And so we have to unlearn the way we were taught to think. We got to unlearn a bunch of ideas about ourselves that aren't true. And then we got to relearn how to think accurately and relearn what is actually true about us. And that's where freedom begins. So I'll see you tomorrow. And Rad's going to take us in for a landing. And have a great day. Have a great night. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Doug, thank you again for the most interesting live today. I'm sure it helped many of us to see things differently. I can't believe we're halfway through the daily sessions already. So, small reminder, if you need help, if you've got questions, reach out to our reset guides in the Facebook group. They're there to help you. Join us tomorrow, same time, for the session called The Cure. And on that day 4, Doug will share the remedy he discovered, that one that was hiding in plain sight. And you will see that being fully yourself is simpler and far more powerful than endlessly trying to become someone better. So thank you very much again for being here with us. Remember, try being loose as ashes, and see you tomorrow.